Okay, it is Monday morning, and yesterday I talked about stuff. Sunday morning I talked about stuff, and I want to quickly go over it. This is something I want to call what I meant to say. So yesterday I did some reading, and we were reading about Abraham. And Abraham has a blessing. He has a call on his life. And I wrote all these notes. He's called by God, and his response, his believing and trusting in God is counted as righteousness. So one of the points of Scripture that I keep trying to, that I wrestle with is all the work is done by God. And we receive gifts, so we receive a blessing, much like Abraham. He receives a blessing, and he simply believes that God will do what he says. And then he acts in ways that are foolish at times. Sometimes he's faithful, sometimes he's kind of dumb. But it isn't on him, it's on what God says. He trusts the promise of God, and that is his salvation. Trusting God is his salvation. What he does on his own is sometimes laugh, sometimes be deceitful, sometimes worship. When the three visitors come, he worships them. He puts himself in a low position and raises them up. So I had all these notes of things I wanted to say, and in the amount of time that I have, I tend to want to get through too much material, and it's difficult. It's difficult to tell this story. But what you have to end and stick the landing on every time is that God is faithful. And my part is just to stumble along and in the end tell you God is faithful. And Jesus came along to show it. He gave this great example. So in this story, we have the promise that Sarah will have a child. And Abraham and Sarah are old. They're 190. 100 is Abraham, 90 is Sarah. And they laugh. They don't believe it. They doubt. And that's sin. It's all sin is from the beginning in the garden. We don't trust God. We trust a serpent. We trust our own strength. We trust swords. We trust wisdom and argument. We trust everything except God, who gives all things. All things are a gift. Whatever wisdom you have that you think, now I understand, it was something God gave you. It's not yours. It's not yours. It's a gift. So in this story, one of the things I thought was important was, so God tells Abraham and Sarah they're going to have a child, and he says, that's what's going to happen. I'll be back in a year and you'll have a child. Then he tells Abraham, I'm also going to destroy Sodom. And you'll see my justice and you'll see my grace. And they'll both be what I decide to do. And you're going to participate, but it's not your game. It's not your decision. So Abraham gets to participate, and he argues with God about how many people, or about whether God's going to be just if he destroys any innocent people in with the evil people in Sodom. So there's evil. God hears this cry. Lord, can you please help us here? There's evil. It's overwhelming us. He hears the cry. He goes down to look personally, which reminds me of Jesus. Jesus comes down personally. God goes to look personally. He goes to Sodom and he finds, yep, this is a pretty bad place. And Abraham is negotiating. Are you sure you want to wipe out all of Sodom? What if there's some innocence there? And there were people crying out. They were innocent in some way. He said, so as Abraham negotiates, what if there are 50 innocent? What if there are 40, 30, 20, 10? What if there are 10 innocent people? God says, I won't destroy it if there are 10 innocent people. And Abraham stops there, but he should have kept going. He said, what if there are 5? It turns out Lot and his wife and his 2 daughters, 4 people, are all that escape. And then Lot's wife, in the famous story, turns to look back. She symbolically says, yeah, I already missed the place, and turns into a pillar of salt. Whatever that is, it's one of the wild parts of the story. Now, it was important that God accepts our negotiation. But we aren't right. Abraham stops way early. He should have said, what if there were 5? What if there were 4? Turns out there were 4. What if there was 3? Turns out actually there were 3. Lot's wife wasn't one of the innocent. And he should have said, what if there are 2? What if it's just Lot's daughters? If they're innocent, I'll save all of them. What if there's only 1? What if it's just Lot? If he's innocent, I'll save all of them. And now I'm thinking, boy, that's Jesus. What if there was 1 innocent? And God says, yeah, that's what's going to happen. There's going to be 1 innocent, and I will save all of them. And that's John 3:16. There's 1 innocent, and God says, for the sake of 1, I will not destroy them all. I will not wipe out the city. Now, when I talked yesterday, I said it should have gone to 0. What if there's nobody innocent? But I wasn't thinking of putting Jesus in the equation. I was thinking God looks over the earth and says, there are none righteous, not 1. All of their righteousness is as filthy rags. Their righteousness, their greatest, their perfection, their innocence is horrifying. And I witness it. I witness it in my own life. I witness it when I work with students. I love them. They're beautiful. And you can see things that have gone horribly wrong. I had an encounter yesterday with students. And it can be shocking how horribly wrong it can go. And these are young children. They're young children. And they've been twisted, and they've been corrupted, and they're steeped in the world's sin. We're steeped in it like a tea bag. We're sitting in here, and it's just dissolving us. It's getting in us. And I long to say, every time we say, but look at them, look how terrible they are. And they were terrible. They were terrible. Look how terrible they are. Every time we say that, we're saying, but not me. Not me. God save me. I deserve it. They deserve justice. Wipe out that city. And you can see the evil. Wipe it out. But we can't see our own evil. But don't wipe me out. We're blinded to our own sin. And I'm saying, every time we do that, every time we say justice needs to be rained on that people, that group, we're agreeing with Satan. We're saying, you decide. Satan's saying, you know what? You're like God. You can decide who's good and who's evil, what's good and what's evil. And that is echoed in every story. It's echoed. So yesterday, I meant to say so much more, but I can't say it good enough. I can't explain it. It's too much. It's too great for me. So my notes. The good news is that God can do things that are impossible for us. All of God's glory is squeezed down into Jesus, and his glory is visible, and you look at Jesus. He did all things well. And then he even said, I'm going to show you what humans deserve. And he took this terrible punishment that when you wrestle with it, probably should be me. It probably should be Sodom. I'm Sodom. There's horror stories playing out in here. There's horror stories. And God says, if I can find one righteous for the sake of one, I will not destroy them. And Jesus says, and this is the most righteous, unbelievable thing that there can be. He says, what if I take the punishment and you let them go? And it's like, what in the world? That's the story of Scripture, and I have to keep saying it. I'm caught. Jesus has caught me. And he says, I want you to tell the story. Do the best you can. And I'll give you a chance, and another chance, and another chance. Follower of Jesus, if that's you, tell the story the best you can. Do it the best you can and keep practicing, because that's your call. If you're following Jesus, notice him, mention him. So this is my first take of what I meant to say. I'm going to put it on Negotiating with Jesus, my channel. And I do really want to be involved online and have some sort of presence. So I'm going to keep trying and try to do it again. So thanks for watching. Any views, like and subscribe. I'll keep trying to do this. Thanks so long.